Your attention, please. Paul and Alex are required to proceed to the gate immediately.
What?
No way.
What is happening here?
This is the last call for the Layovers podcast.
Really?
Come on, man. This is our thing. We got this.
Oh, yeah.
And we made it.
Of course, geeks.
Flight 83 to New Chitose. Hi, Alex.
Sapporo, man, what a place. What an airport, too.
Did you like it? Did you like Hokkaido?
I did. I loved it. I didn't know what to expect, but I really, really enjoyed it. I loved my entire experience from the airport, both sides of the trip. What a lovely place.
I haven't been for quite a while, actually. I used to go quite often. We'll obviously talk about all your Japan trip in this episode, because that's not the only airport you've hit. We're not going to talk about the other airports, because there are some others that you've hit. I've also hit quite a lot of airports, actually, since we last recorded, so that gives us like this huge kind of backlog now of airports. We don't have to think about which airport are we going to do next. I have like at least 7 lined up. and Alex has experienced the Star Wars plane. I'm so jealous.
Yes, finally. As luck would have it. Yeah, because we talked about it beforehand, and I was like, oh, well, no, there's no way. And I kept trying to look on Flight Radar, and sure enough, there it was.
Oh my God. Well, we'll get there in a minute. This time I've written down some notes, guys, because I wanted to acknowledge some of the comments, and we've got a ton. I know we keep saying that at every episode, but there's just no way for us to track everything that you're sending us. We really do appreciate that a lot, but I don't know, I need to hire someone to do that for us, because, I mean, and you know, the other thing that is becoming also very successful is that picture-in-picture, the layovers in context pictures. We're getting so many that I also kind of lost track, so I'm going to try to regroup after we do all these bouts of travels, because we're right in between 2 bouts. So you just came back from Japan, and you leaving also this week to, where is it?
Abu
the Middle
Dhabi.
East.
Yeah.
With Etihad.
Yes, first time in Etihad, first time to Abu Dhabi, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Which means that my trip to Karachi, which was on Etihad, we'll talk about it in the next episode, so Alex and I can compare our Etihad experiences. We're today recording Tuesday, November 20th, 2018, and I came back last night, like at 11 p.m. with Qatar Airways, and I did the Q Suite. That was awesome.
Yeah, very interested to hear about that.
I went to Doha as well, and to Penang. Penang, man, Penang, that must be super high on your list. It's I know we keep saying every time, because we're very similar, we're very emotional with the destinations we're going to. So every time we fall in love with destinations, I fell in love with Karachi. I'll talk about that probably the next episode. But Penang, man, it is the street food capital of the world, I think. It's just insane.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
Really, it is. And Georgetown, which is the capital of the island off the coast of Malaysia, Georgetown has this fabric because it has all these old buildings from the British rule. Some of them are a little bit down. Some of them have been like kind of hipsterized, I guess it's the right term. And it works really, really well, man. It's a fantastic destination. I wasn't expected. It's my discovery of 2018 along with Taipei. I really adored it. But we're not here to talk about destination. That's for Attaché. Although you ventured, like you had promised the audience, you ventured off a destination and you talked about the Aeroflot.
Yeah, we did. I think I mentioned it when we actually filmed this episode, and I went on the CityJet Aeroflot, and we filmed this little bit because CityJet are retiring the airplane, and it's slowly, actually not even slowly, it's quickly disappearing from our skies. So I felt compelled to create this 5 or 6 minute homage to this wonderful piece of British engineering. So we did, and I have to tell you, I was delighted by the response. I thought people would be like, come on, this is boring, get back to the usual travel stuff. But people responded and they liked it. So I'm quietly delighted about that. Not because they watched the video, but because they liked the airplane and they thought it was interesting.
You guys watch it. It is on the YouTube channel of Attaché. It's really well done. It's shorter than usual, but it's really, really well done. And I also loved it. I think I watched it twice already.
Oh, well, good. No, it was fun to make.
Really nice. I love how some people in the comment section of YouTube were basically telling you, oh, do some more flight reports. I'm not sure you want to do that because then you'll be like all these other guys, but that kind on a specific, piece of history of travel is really good.
I think, because there's people who do that really well. Sam Chewy, of course, is the king of that. His stuff is so good, and he gets all this exclusive access. Perhaps there's an angle to do it about, as you say, specific airplanes or airlines, or from a historical bent.
Yeah, I think your approach is more emotional. We just said we are both more emotional than the actual, sometimes that we do on this show as well, the practicality. How is the seat? I mean, that's great, obviously, but I don't think that's exactly the philosophy of Attaché. And that's why this Avroliner video, guys, watch it, fits perfectly in that. Oh, yeah, and I want to, since I was talking about Penang, I want to make a shout out to Lance, who's Malaysian. He's based in KL, but actually Penang is his hometown, Georgetown, and he gave me all the addresses where to go eat.
Oh, that's gold intel right there.
You will do an Attaché episode in Penang. There's no way out for you. You will do it, even before KL. I promise you that I will convince you to do that.
Oh, well, I've never heard you speak so passionately about a place, so I'm sold.
And going there with Qatar was great. I'll come to that as well in a bit. The other food discovery that we were talking about last night when I was coming back is in Japan, you discovered the Studio Tamaki, the best pizza in the world, right?
Yeah, I have never had pizza that good anywhere in the world. It was absolutely staggering. In a quiet little place near Tokyo Tower, just sort of a couple of blocks back from one of the main streets. Tiny little place run by one guy who, as you said in our chat, was an apprentice at some of the best pizza places in Japan. Holy hell, was that good. Eric Wareheim, if you're not, there's a show called Tim and Eric, and he's the Eric of that, Eric Wareheim. He's also a big food guy, friend of David Chang's, and he put it on Instagram, and Greg and I are both big fans of his, and Greg saw it and said, we have to go to this place, and I'm so glad we did. Holy hell.
Yeah, for me, it was Craig Mott. Used to live at the same time in Tokyo. Now he lives part-time in Tokyo and in New York, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He had written even an article about it on Eater. Guys, if you ever go to Tokyo, and I'm going next month, if you ever go to Tokyo, that's probably the best pizza in the world. And I know this will create a lot of controversy, but if you want to talk about the controversy, listen to Mastication Nation, because you just did pizza as well.
We did. Yes, we did just do pizza.
There's a lot I could say about that, but this is not the purpose of this show. The only time we talk about pizza here is when we discover a good one in a lounge, which, by the way, we haven't heard about in a few weeks. Australian people, usually you are the ones that
you got it in the Sydney lounges. Sydney, was it Sydney? I think it was Sydney.
Maybe was it? I don't recall. We really don't know enough the Australian airports, guys. We're sorry. But thank you, because we have a huge listenership down under, as they say. Oh, yeah, talking about Australia, I wanted to make another shout out to #Joello on Instagram. Back when I was in Australia with Etihad, actually, in August, you were also, and I forgot to mention, you were also very helpful in telling me where to go in Melbourne, etc. I think he's based in Perth, if I'm not mistaken. Perth is another city, apparently, really nice that we should both go to at some point.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about Perth.
What happened in these 2 weeks? Tons of stuff.
Yeah.
One thing that is not exactly aviation related, but is completely insane, and I hope all your relatives are fine, is these fires in California. This is just completely bad shit.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrendous. The deadliest fire in California history by quite a long way now. Yeah, it's very sad to watch from afar. My family and friends, for the most part, are safe and happy and healthy, but the air quality in the Greater Bay Area is the worst in the world right now.
Yeah, it's worse than Karachi, which, trust me, was not that great. No matter how much I love the city, and I've read something, I don't know how accurate it is, that the area of the fire is larger than Singapore and Taiwan combined.
I believe that. It's monstrous. It's absolutely staggering.
It's just crazy. And of course, there's pictures from San Francisco Airport and others when the visibility is very low. The planes are still landing, so operations seem to be going fine. But I mean, man, it's crazy. What else? Oh, Alitalia has released a new uniform. I'm not understanding, how do they set their priorities?
I was just thinking the same thing.
They're awesome, by the way. They look very classy. Italian, they're always very good with fashion, but I just honestly don't really get it. Right. Anyway, talking about, since you talked about Sam Shui, about travel blogger.
Yeah.
By the way, do you ever have, when you enter an aircraft and you're trying to maybe film some stuff, did you ever have like the comment from a attendant like, are you a blogger?
I rarely film. I try and film surreptitiously, so I haven't had anybody say anything. But when I went on the Finnair A350, yes, I did. And as soon as I told them about attaché and about layovers, that's when they're like, oh, come up to the flight deck and let me show you the crew quarters and all that. So yeah, it was a very positive reaction.
Because I'm always wondering, I had that a few times and I don't really either, film because I love taking a few pictures because some of the cabins are pretty insane and we're very lucky to be in those. But I had the comment and I shut it down and said, no, I'm not. But I was wondering exactly that, how they would react. And maybe some of our listeners can tell us, because I was wondering, maybe some of them are like, oh, one more of these guys filming the cabin. Come on, we have enough of you. I don't know. Maybe
I think I would probably lie and say no. I'm just an enthusiast, which actually is true because the content that I make isn't directly related to airplanes. But with the layovers angle, it's always interesting. How much? It's even nerdier to say no, but I have an aviation podcast.
On the topic, Derluce Anton at Derluce on Twitter told us that Aeroflot has stripped a travel blogger of his status and all air miles because he wrote a critical tweet about the CEO of the airline.
Jeez Louise.
So not all the airlines are very happy. And I remember that once I was in the cabin of the Iberia flight from Madrid to London, was it 340, I think it is. And I was just taking, again, I'm not a blogger, guys. I was just taking a picture of the seat and whatever. And I remember get scolded by the one of the attendant. It was less about being scolded, which I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but more about the tone. It was like, come on,
That's what gets me. So if it's policy or if you don't want me to, there's very easy ways to make it so that I'll comply. But if you're going to, and I'll still comply because it's a law, but the choice of tone is always what makes me feel aggrieved if I have to comply,
Yes, indeed. A little bit of feedback about our previous episodes. Julius, der.ot on Instagram. I told you guys, Instagram is becoming popular for people to contact us. Of course, he loves our podcast. Thank you so much, Julius. And he gives us feedback on Tegel. And he says, he accepts that, Tegel is maybe not the best airport in the world. But he says, one thing that is true I should have mentioned, because of its size, small, it's one of these rare airports where you can go from the plane to the curb in 2 minutes. And he's actually right.
That is true. And that's a benefit for any airport.
Yeah, it is something that, admittedly, especially in a capital, usually with these massive airports that are out of the city, it's pretty cool to have a capital airport when you can do that. So, Julius, you're absolutely right.
That's a great point.
On Instagram, again, HWBRST talks about you, Alex, about Hong Kong. It says that if you're having food issues in HKG, just after immigration, you turn right, you go to the Qantas Lounge, and around the time of the JAL flights, there is great Japanese food. I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, ordinarily I would have bolted for the lounges anyway, but I had 7 other people with me, so lounges were not an option. But that lounge is really good. It's really good, actually. And we've talked about how those Japanese flights influence the lounges, lounge services across the world.
Actually, it was very funny that I was talking, I'm not going to mention in which flight, the 4 legs, I was talking to crew that were super cool, actually, and they were comparing the different type of nationalities and how people fly. And I'm not going to go because I don't want to put them in trouble because some of the stuff they say were not PC, obviously.
Yeah.
But the comment about Japanese was very nice. They said that they were usually one of the kindest passengers and they were very, very appreciative when the food was great, and the food on Qatar is actually great. Talking about Qantas, because every time we go to that Terminal 3 at Heathrow, we choose the Cafe Lounge. Have you ever tried the Qantas Lounge?
I keep going, okay, this time I'm going to do it. Okay, this time I'm going to do it. But I always just get so comfortable in the Cathay Lounge that I haven't. But I've heard, we talked about a review somebody did recently, and they highlighted how excellent it was, especially the food. So I really must.
I should force myself next time to say I'm not going to go to the Cafe one. I'm going to try the Qantas. Though I'm not sure it's always open. I don't recall. But
it always seems to be open when I think they've got pretty flexible hours there.
It's entirely possible, indeed. Again, food and airports. Taylor Moore, T-Moore 4000 on Twitter, tells us that at Burbank, the airport we did a few episodes ago, a good food option is Guy Fieri restaurants. I'm not, to be very honest with you guys, I'm not a huge fan of Guy Fieri in general, but I've never eaten at any of these restaurants, so I don't know. Have you?
I will tell you this about Guy Fieri. what you might think about his personality and the things that he talks about, they don't resonate with me either. However, he goes to every of the major California wildfires and stays up for hours and hours and hours and cooks for all comers completely free.
Nice.
Every single time. There's always pictures of him out there cooking and cooking and cooking and cooking for the fire crews, for volunteers, for people that may have been affected by it. So yeah, I mean, his content and his food doesn't necessarily appeal to me, but he does seem like a good dude. When all is said and done.
I didn't know that, but yeah, I highly respect that. So
yeah, me too.
There you go. But I mean, at least Taylor says that's a good food option at Burbank. So maybe other passengers who are transit there can actually tell us if it's the case. He also said, that's a tidbit about Burbank, that the airport is actually illegal due to the distance between the gates and the runway, but was grandfathered in.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, but it adds that there's a new terminal that is being built, will be built. I think the decision was made in 2016, and they're going to do like a new terminal, so that will obviously change that dynamic of the gates being too close to the runway. And finally, Taylor invites us to give us a set visit on whatever show he's working on. So I don't know which show you're working on, but Taylor, I'm so very interested to do that.
Me too. That's intriguing.
Indeed. Another feedback, and this is really cool, from Jean-François Bourque, is from Montreal in Canada, and he used to work for Bombardier for 14 years.
Oh, wow.
As an aircraft mechanic, then inspector for the Global Express, so the XRS, the 5000, 6000. And he says that they were doing a lot of the interiors for the corporate airplanes. You know, Bombardier does a lot of these corporate jets. First of all, it's so cool that we have people like you listening to us.
Yeah.
I mean, we never thought in a million years when we started doing this show that pilots and, people from the industry will listen, to be fully honest.
Absolutely not.
And plus, you have the feedback, from you guys actually in giving us tidbits information is really awesome. So thank you so much, Jean-François. And he wants to call out what we said about the dividers in the CS100, 300, so the A220. He doesn't buy that Bombardier doesn't know how to do dividers, because they did dividers inside all the corporate aircrafts that they were producing. His take is that it's probably something that has to do with European approval of said dividers in a new aircraft, more than Bombardier doesn't know how to do dividers. He explains that, for instance, there were CRJs back in the day, like he talks about the 90s, where there were like 4 seats in the front and the economy is in the back, and there was a divider. So Bombardier has the knowledge in how to create a divider. Yeah, that seems pretty reasonable, actually.
It does seem entirely reasonable.
And he listens to each episode, and you guys make a great show. Thank you so much, Jean-François. We really appreciate your comments here. And again, guys, we can't mention all of you. There's literally way too many messages, but keep them coming. Really, we love that. Talking about these picks in picks, we had like so many. I'm not going to mention them all, but there's one of our listeners, Where is Day K, from Australia, clearly, who has probably sent us about 2,000 of these. So cool. I think every flight he makes. So thank you so much. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to feature all of these in our Instagram, but thank you so much. We really do appreciate. And he also sent us a picture of a hot dog in the lounge of Virgin Australia. And my God, that hot dog looks good. We're not going to add, besides pizza, a hot dog spreadsheet, but have you ever had a hot dog in the lounge?
I'm very sure I have not.
Me neither. That one looks really good. Australians do it better.
Yeah, I think lounge food in Australia sounds amazing.
Yeah, all the lounges, every single time we get a picture or something, it's always a great story, man. We should relocate. And finally, Pimp My Dibber. Apparently there was like a winter storm on the East Coast in the US. So on one side you have the fires, and the other side you have I love this comment. I know it's not totally PC, but people pairing up already, talking flights, family, then hotel availability in that order. Gotta be a lot of sex.
He's probably right.
Actually, yeah. You know what? Every time there's like a brownout, like a storm, there's always like 9 months later, a lot of kids coming up.
Yeah.
I was born in September. Make the comment. Talking about cold, happy birthday to Finnair. They just turned 95.
Isn't that amazing?
And they made this content. Have you seen this? They're trying their hand at like what people call content marketing, whatever, storytelling, whatever you want to call it. And they made this story about an author that is in Helsinki, he's on a layover and meeting with a photographer. It's very different from the usual advertising and marketing from other airlines, and it's pretty interesting. I don't know if they're going to keep up with that. I don't know the effect, but it's pretty nice. You can find it, guys, on their YouTube and Facebook page, I'm pretty sure. Before we go to Alex's trip, one more, because we talked about these massive airports. One that we forgot to mention is the new Beijing Daxing International Airport. So the second international airport, which is, when you think about it, they already have this huge one and they're building a second one. It will open on June 30th next year. So it's almost ready.
That's amazing. Wow. The rate of infrastructure growth in China just continues to astound me.
Yeah, it's baffling. Also with their high-speed trains and everything.
Yeah.
It seems completely out of this world sometimes.
Yeah, it really does.
So to Japan, to Alex, Tsukiji has closed, but have you seen that there are some rogue restaurateur and rogue fishmongers that are basically staying in the old Tsukiji and they are doing their business? It's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, they were breaking through the fences to continue their wares, which is lovely and heartbreaking at the same time. But we actually went there, and
the new one?
The old one. Well, that area, and many of the famous restaurants are still open and still plying their trade. But you don't have to wait nearly as long as you used to have to in the past.
Yeah. Actually, I've both read and also seen pictures of the new one, and I made a mistake. There are actually tons of restaurants. The only downside to it, and I think Kobu's went there just now. He was on a trip in Japan. The only downside that I feel from it is that it looks like a mall. You have like these huge windows when you can see the market activities. And then you have all these restaurants, but there's no soul to it. It seems like, I mean, I'm sure the food is amazing, but it's like you being in one of these very big, food courts that they do in Japan when the last 2 floors of a mall would be, which is fine, but it's not Tsukiji.
No, it's not. It's kind of lost a little bit of the soul, sadly.
Yeah. Anyway, first maybe start how you went there from Heathrow to... what was it? Haneda, I guess?
Haneda, on ANA, who were great as always. It was the first time I'd gone into that United Lounge, the business lounge, which is great.
Because last time you had access to the Global First or whatever. Oh my God,
which was great, but almost it was like too quiet, But the business class one was rammed, so I guess there must have been other Star Alliance flights leaving at the same time.
I think, I'm sorry to interrupt, that Star Alliance, every time there's flights leaving from B, they kind of tell you if you want to have access to a lounge, you can go to the United. That's the one they give you. I think it probably is the biggest one in Terminal 2B at Heathrow. But yeah, it's a very good one.
It's a good one. It was fine. It was comfortable, everything you needed. We weren't there for very long just because we had to get on the plane, which was fine. And, ANA is great. You've described the business class product in the past, as have I. The physical seat is very comfortable. It's very, very sturdy, almost to a fault, with that operating table that comes out. It's very good. The food is good. The service is just outstanding. Again, the one thing I think lets them down is the IFE is very weak compared to other 5-star airlines. It's just not good. There's not much on there in any language, let alone in English. I think that lets them down. But they have live TV. They've got Wi-Fi, which is fine. It's $20 for 100 megs, which if you're just on your phone, it's more than enough.
Yeah. I still prefer that they tell you full flight and they don't go into these megabytes because I'm not really sure what it means, but it's fine.
I agree with you, because it's the way that they pitch it is an hour, a few hours, or the full flight for the price, and then underneath it says capped at 100 megs. It was like that last time we flew them, which was pretty much almost exactly a year ago. But it's good. It's fine. It's comfortable. We arrived at Haneda with I think we were even early, but it was a long flight as it often is this time of year because of the winds. And when we arrived in the arrivals area, there was a huge press corps awaiting. Not us. Wow. They looked very disappointed when we came out, actually, but I don't know who. I think it might have been some baseball players. They were coming over for the Japan All-Star Series, which is American All-Stars versus Japanese All-Stars. But yeah, we took the train into town, and actually we had a night in Tokyo before we met up with our mutual good friend Joseph Tame and carried on the Shinkansen. My niece, who has never been out of the U.S.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. That was quite something.
Yeah, she came with us. I flew her out from San Francisco on United, which she said was fine. I don't know. She hasn't gotten a whole heap to compare it to, but she said it was comfortable, and she was on a Dreamliner. And she arrived about 45 minutes ahead of me and was able to negotiate the immigration and baggage claim and customs and all of that by herself. So I was proud of her. The next day we jumped on the Shinkansen down to Shizuoka, or near Shizuoka, actually. And I'm not going to get into too much detail because there's an attaché episode coming, but we filmed around that area, around Fuji, in the Shuzenji area, which is just breathtaking. Absolutely breathtaking as well. You may have seen some pictures on my Instagram and on the attaché Instagram. But yeah, just what a stunning part of the world.
It's fantastic.
I got to scratch a few itches as well, as just personal, like food-wise and experience-wise. So that was cool. But we ended up in Shizuoka. Have you ever been to Shizuoka?
Yes.
Well, it's a neat place. It's like a little mini Tokyo.
Yes.
And you know, that may sound glib because it's just a smaller city, but it has the vibe of Tokyo in that it's spotlessly clean, it's organized, there's a lot to it, but it's not as sort of bohemian as a Fukuoka or gritty as an Osaka or unusual as a Sapporo. But I really liked it. And then we flew from Shizuoka Airport up to Sapporo, and we were so bloody lucky because we flew at about 4:00 in the afternoon from Shizuoka, which is a very small but functional airport in the middle of nowhere. You have to drive through green tea fields to get there. Literally through there's these tiny country roads with green tea fields as far as the eye can see, and then all of a sudden there's this airport. It's got a phenomenal observation area, huge, absolutely huge outdoor observation area, airside, but there's hardly any movements. It's where Fuji Dream Airlines are based.
Yeah.
So their big hangar's based there, and they've got obviously the most movements out of there. But in the hour and a half maybe even 2 hours that we were there, I think one plane landed, and that was a China Eastern flight to Shanghai, an A321. But we happened to take off at just the right time, where we flew right past Fuji.
The picture is on your Instagram.
It's on my Instagram, and the light was just stunning,
Perfect,
and the flight was empty, so we were able to move around. It was a 737-800. We were able to move around and get the right angles, and Greg took some pictures. Again, it reminded me how flipping wonderful flying domestically in Japan is.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it, like, not that much, maybe 5 times now, but I'm just like,
it's a bliss.
It's so good. You know, you had, on that plane, it was streaming IFE to your device. So there was streamable content. There was 4 channels of live TV. There was free, super fast Wi-Fi for the entire flight. There was a snack service if you wanted it with free bits and pieces and stuff to buy. One of the flight attendants saw Greg taking pictures and filming out of the window, and she said, what kind of camera is that? And they nerded out for a minute. And then she came back with a signed ANA postcard with an ANA wing and then Fuji.
Wow.
And signed it, said, have a great flight and all that.
That's so kind. I mean, this is the little things.
Yeah.
The little things matter, man. Wow.
It is the little things. It was so kind.
And daring as well.
And and that was the theme throughout. We flew exclusively on ANA, and that was the theme across all long haul and short haul flights. The crews were so good. So
no, they are. I agree.
Engaged and interested and polite.
I was there because now we mentioned quite a few times, both of us, that on long haul flights, international flights, the English language have seen a much higher proficiency compared to a few years ago. But how is it within Japan? Because I think the last time I flew ANA domestic was 10 years ago. I've flown many other airlines domestic in Japan, but not ANA. Is it different, or is it?
It's good. It's not as good as it is on international, but that's to be understood. What I have noticed, and I'm sure that you've noticed this as well, is that the level of English in Japan has improved exponentially.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a concerted effort at the national level with the 2 big sporting events coming up, the Rugby World Cup next year and the Olympics after that.
To be frank, I think Japanese, because they do learn English, it was more about not wanting to. Wanting is not the right term. More like You know how Japanese can be, and how do I say that correctly, is as long as they don't feel that they do something in a very good level, they won't even try to do it. So I think it was mostly a matter of unlocking and say, you know what, even if your English is not perfect, and come on, 99% of the planet, their English is not perfect.
Yeah.
Just go with it and you'll be able to communicate. English was already there. It was just like dormant or something.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think the message has been this benefits us as a country or will. And I think that, as you say, has unlocked this nascent ability to speak well. I mean, even like I go back to the same knife shop every time I'm in Tokyo, and our conversations get more and more detailed. Not because my Japanese has gotten better, it certainly hasn't, but they just seem to have been able to do that. And it was the same on the flights as well, and just generally around Japan.
I think if you just look at the numbers of tourists also like coming to Japan compared to when I was living there 12 years ago, and now it's just like triple or something. There's upcoming off with the Olympics, the rugby, World Cup, etc. But it's just people just do go more to Japan, and thus probably Japanese have to cater for international tourists more than they used to have to. And there you go. And
when you're one of the two national airlines, it's again in your interest to do that.
Yeah.
And they seem to have done that, and the signage, and I couldn't believe it when we were sitting in the departure lounge, which is basically there's like two gates for the domestic Japanese flights in Shizuoka. They did the announcements in Japanese, and then they did them in English. And I was looking around, and it's just me and Greg and my niece and Joseph, and that's it. It didn't feel like it was for our benefit. It was, this is what we do because we're an international airline. And I think I've noticed that in the relatively brief amount of time I've been coming to Japan, that seems to be the trend, which is great for us as visitors.
The one thing I think I mentioned in the last episode that is really striking in Japan is the massive number of airports, because it's almost like a pride thing. Every single council, I was about to say that's an exaggeration, obviously, but has built its own international airport. The problem is that it led to this situation where you have a lot of airports next to each other or close enough to each other, but no traffic.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, and they all spotlessly clean, and they all have good amenities, and they all actually open most of the day. It's not as if, they just open for the flight. I'm not sure that economically it makes a lot of sense.
No, and I think that you have this weird relationship between the airports and airlines and the Shinkansen as well. It's sort of this, not uneasy. In fact, I think they're very complementary, but it's where does it make most sense for you to do one and not the other? And actually, we noticed that with Sapporo is that obviously the Shinkansen has not reached from Tokyo to Sapporo yet, and it won't for another 10 years at least. But what will happen, because Sapporo to Haneda is the third busiest air route in the world.
Yeah.
9 million people a year, and that's nearly half of the traffic that goes through that airport anyway.
That must have been for you a very different sight, because there were literally flights every 5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, and Sapporo is, you pull in and it feels like you're pulling into an international airport.
Clearly.
There's heavies and wide bodies next to you, but it's not a very big airport.
No, it's not.
It's just it's an airport built to take very big airplanes because primarily of that route. Because it's one of the few major cities one of the few designated cities that's not connected to the rest of Japan by the Shinkansen. So,
yeah, because it's quite far, guys. If you don't know where it is, it's the northern bit of Japan. It's the island of Hokkaido, and they just opened the Shinkansen that stops just below, basically, the island.
Yeah.
And they need another 10 years, like you say. I think it's 2029 where they're going to open the final bit, which will lead to actually connecting the island completely. But now it's just switched trains, and you have like a pretty fast train, if you'd rather do that by train instead of doing that by plane. And also you have the benefit that on that Shinkansen line that goes just below Hokkaido, you have the new Grand Class, which is the super first class of Shinkansen, which is like absolutely stunning.
And there's the tunnel now, the tunnel bridge that goes from Honshu to Hokkaido, which was until a new one opened in Switzerland, the longest tunnel in the world. It's the longest tunnel that has an undersea component in the world. So you can take the train all the way to Hakodate now, but that last bit, which is not a short distance from Hakodate to Sapporo, is going to take them another 10 years. But then you'll be able to get from Tokyo to Sapporo in 4 hours, whereas now it takes 12. But then you fly. But interestingly, and this is like weird, there's a great train service from New Chitose Airport into Sapporo itself, which takes 37 minutes. It's the rapid airport service. Except ours, brace yourself, was delayed.
That never happens.
I know. Delayed by about 45 minutes. Unfortunately, it was because there was an accident at a level crossing, so no one seemed particularly perturbed, but it's a very good service. It's a Japanese train, of course it's a good service. But, yeah. That was cool. It's there's you never think twice about how am I going to get from the airport into town because it's Japan,
Yeah, it's always going to be And then did you fly around in Sapporo?
Yeah, we did. We went to Sapporo Okadama Airport, which is their London city.
It's a tiny airport. Yeah.
Tiny little airport, but right in town there, and it's also home to the JDF as well, to the Japan Defense Force. So they've got a few. I don't know if they have planes there, but they certainly had quite a few helicopters and some of the JAL and ANA regional services fly in and out of there as well. But we chartered a Cessna Turbo Stationair, a Cessna 206, which is a lot of fun, and flew around that. The team that did it, Hokkaido Air Service, they were a lot more weapons grade than I was expecting, because we've flown with some very small outfits in the past, but these guys had a full operations room, which was manned by 8 or 9 people at 8:30 a.m. on a Sunday morning.
Wow.
And so we flew. That was damn good fun. Flew around there. Got some beautiful views of that very, very unique city, because it's a grid system.
It's a grid, yeah. It's like it's inspired by, because I don't think it was built by Americans.
It was built
Japanese.
by Americans.
Maybe you're right, because you actually researched into it. I remember that they asked Americans for consulting on how to build a city.
Yes,
indeed.
That's true. So the prefecture governor at the time approached Ulysses S. Grant, who was president of the U.S. He then appointed this Oyato Gaikakajin, which is foreign advisor. Right. And that person was the Secretary for Agriculture in the U.S. And he said, what you want to do is use this city block grid system with everything emanating from a large central park, which obviously
is the park that you have next to the tower in the center. Yeah. But it's very striking, because it's true that in Japan, you don't have any city like this in terms of a grid. It's very easy to not getting lost, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a very striking. Did you have any snow or not yet?
No, in fact, it was very late this year, because we were there, oh my God, just a week ago. And
I was about to say.
People were remarking, it was bloody cold in the evenings, and you could feel like snow is imminent, but no, there wasn't any on the ground, which actually for us made it a little bit easier for, obviously, hiring a small plane, but just getting around generally as well.
Yeah, I've been in both seasons. In the summer, I went for onsen in the south of Hokkaido, and of course, I landed at New Chitose as well. We'll go at the end of the show. But I've been in the winter for the snow festival, and also did the tours in the all island. I mean, the ice breaking ships in the north and stuff. And when it's snowing, it's a totally different experience. You should also go once when it's snowing. You have these, because the amount of snow is just staggering. You literally, I remember taking the train that crosses within the Hokkaido, within the island from Sapporo, and we had on each side of the train a wall of at least 5 meters of snow.
Yeah,
just see snow. It's crazy.
It's funny, when we were looking for places to eat or researching recommendations that other people had given us, the Google images, or when you look on Google Maps or whatever, all of the photos of the facades of the restaurants, invariably there was 2 to 3 feet of snow on either side of them.
Exactly. Anyway, and then, of course, the Star Wars plane.
And like you say, we'll talk in more detail about New Chitose on the way out of this episode, but we'd gone through security and all of that, and we were just grabbing bento boxes for the flight back. And I'm in the store checking out, and I see Greg frantically waving at me from where the gate was. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with Greg? This is very unbecoming. He's making a scene. And then he's like,
especially in Japan,
he's pointing out the window, and I see it taxiing by. There's the C-3PO 777-200. And I was like, oh my God, as this poor lady who was checking me out was like, what the hell is this guy's problem? And then she saw, and she sort of shook her head and laughed at me like, otaku nerd. And it's a beautiful plane. It's beautifully done. Again, we didn't start boarding until 20 minutes before our departure time. And I was like, we're not going to be on time. And of course,
Of course you are. That's Japan. You always board super late, actually. Yeah. It's
yeah.
so orderly.
It's
that
so
it just
orderly.
works.
No one gets up until their group is called. No one. They just sit there patiently. What a flipping treat that is.
And also, they go directly to their seat. They're super efficient at putting their stuff
down.
on the overhead bin. And it just goes, you can literally board like a 777, like you just did, like in 10 minutes, and it's fine. And it's incredible.
That's the only word for it. It is completely incredible. I wish every other nation in the world adopted that level of discipline for boarding airplanes, but no one does. So that's fine. It's a treat to go to Japan and experience it. I wondered how much the Star Wars experience would extend, and it actually did quite a lot. Like the first thing you notice when you get on board is that all of the headrest covers are Star Wars themed, which is a nice touch.
Nice.
Then when they do the passenger briefings and they've done the safety announcement, C-3PO, R2-D2, and BB-8 do announcements, first in Japanese and then in English.
That's
as
awesome.
well, which was a lovely. I thought, wow, that's great. What a great brand extension. Then the flight attendants, when they're doing the drink services, are all wearing R2-D2 and C-3PO aprons. And then finally they come around and they.
Oh yeah, I know what you're gonna say.
They've got a basket of candy which they hand. I think they do that on every flight, but these Star Wars postcards. But one of them is holding Yoda.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can take a selfie with Yoda. That's the best thing ever.
Yeah, so I took a picture. I said, "Do you mind if I take a picture of you?" And she said, "Yes, of course." And then she said, "Now, do you mind if I take a picture of you?" And handed me Yoda. So I got this great picture of me doing Yoda. But I'm so glad I got to experience that because I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, and of course,
same.
Obviously,
I'm so jealous. Were you served any food or not?
They do a drinks run, which is for free. Just for things like coffee, tea, water, juices, and things like that. And there were what looked like very good food to be bought if you wanted it. But it was only an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's short. Because I think on international flights, so you have that Yoda thing, which usually sits in the business class cabin on one of the seats. But I tend to remember, because these are long flights, that the food service has the trays and some of the stuff also Star Wars branded. I'm not fully, at least at the beginning, I don't know if it's still the case because I think they're going to run that. I don't know how long the licensing deal is for, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did something a little bit more with it.
Were they playing any Star Wars music?
Yes, the boarding music was all Star Wars, which was so great. I mean, how fun! It was such a neat thing, and of course,
awesome.
And being on a 777 for such a short flight was a novelty in and of itself. But to have this added element was great.
They're quite high density actually as well.
Yes, the business cabin I think is only 5 rows, and it's sort of domestic business class. But then, you're dumped out in Haneda. For us, it was Terminal 2. And interestingly, my niece and Joseph were on ANA, so we raced them back to Haneda and met in the middle in Haneda where the train station is, connecting the two terminals. So it actually worked out pretty well. But man, traveling domestically in Japan is such a joy.
Yeah, and you get all these little boarding passes.
Lots of paperwork.
I love that. Oh, I can't wait. It'll be next month. I'll probably have to do a domestic flight as well. Probably not the Star Wars one. You can actually still track them. And I realized, because when you send me, of course, you wanted to make me jealous. He sent me this picture of him with Yoda, and I'm like, oh my God, he's done it. I've tried so many times that I missed. I think the domestic one, so there's 4 Star Wars planes, look them up, and then you can find the registration numbers. The advantage of the ones in Japan over the ones that run internationally is that they tend to do the same routes on a kind of rotation. So yours would do, let's say, you go to Hokkaido, so Nichitose back to Haneda, then we'll go to, let's say, I'm inventing stuff because I don't have it in front of me, but to Fukuoka. This rotation that goes on and on and on doesn't mean that they will stick for it forever, because maybe they change the rotation, but you have a better chance at keeping them. It seems that the international ones are switched, obviously because they want everybody to enjoy, and unless you have an in at ANA, you might not find a pattern. Say, oh, I'm leaving from, let's say, Munich, and I want to have the Star Wars planes, and if you find it today, maybe like in 2 weeks, it's not the case anymore. By the way, if you have Star Wars miles. How awesome that would be, actually, in 12 parsecs. If you have ANA miles, Sky Diamond, I don't remember the name of it. If you are a member, you can call ANA and you can ask where the international Star Wars planes are, and they will tell you. I don't think they do if you're not a member of their frequent flyer club. Otherwise, if you have a friend who is, just ask her or him, and that's how. When we met in Japan in January 2016, I knew where the flight was going back to Paris, but I missed it by a day. I was like, oh my God. Anyway, so that's so cool. I'm so jealous. You've done the Star Wars plane.
Yeah, it was fun.
We had at Groot Jacob the Groot, who's actually talking about that. So see, Jacob, he's done the Star Wars plane, and I hope that, Jacob, you get to try one of these days. And everybody else who's tried one, just, eat us up. We'll be very, I'll be very jealous.
Especially if you've done it long haul.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you experienced that they don't do on the domestic version?
Anything else about your Japanese experience?
No, we flew back again on ANA and out of Haneda. I had to do a quick excursion to the observation deck. I know. Actually, you know what was funny? Greg sent me a picture because he had to go through special security because he's got a film camera, 16 millimeter film camera. So we sort of said, okay, we'll meet in the lounge later. But he sent me a picture which looked just like the check-in desk, but there was a guy in full samurai garb checking in a full samurai sword, and the police had to come over and inspect it and all of that, which was kind of unusual. But yeah, that's such a great airport. And it was a long flight home. It was just under 13 hours from that.
Well, this very famous sign, I think, mentioned it in episode 15 when we talked about Narita, but probably I've mentioned it countless times on this show. There's a very famous sign in Narita when you're about to get into security, which is a bad translation of Japanese, and it says, if you're a samurai, don't bring any swords in or something. And it's so awesome because the first time you see it, it's like almost so cliche, but at the same time so true. You're like, what? Yeah. There actually is a sign about samurai swords.
And clearly it's necessary.
Yeah, I never had actually seen anyone. Wow, that must have been quite a sight.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh man, every time you go to Japan, you have so many stories. And for the rest, guys, we'll cover some of the other airports that Alex has done, but for the rest, you'll have to wait for the episodes to be released to know more about what actually happened there. And I'm so disappointed I couldn't join you, but next time I'm sure we'll have a time next year. Talking about high frequent flyer on ANA, a friend of mine, Rob, just got more than 1 million miles, and they sent him this. Wow. I'll send you the picture, Alex. This box, which is, I think it must be simply a luggage tag, but the luggage tag is handmade in leather with a very nice sign on it, which says ANA million miles. Something that looks like, I don't know, it's a logo, but it looks like maybe a Leonardo da Vinci helicopter thing. I mean, I don't know, guys, because I've never reached 1 million miles in a single account. I've reached 1 million miles more than that actually on spread out, but on a single account. So I don't know how other airlines would treat me or recognize us if we were to hit that threshold. But that's a very nice one. Really, wow, lovely. My God. Though, do you ever put any of these luggage tags that they get you on your actual luggage?
Nope.
Same. I never.
I never have.
No, I mean, they're nice, and you get the gold ones, and you're like, okay, and so what? Plus, I never check in. I try not to. But. So before we go to other trips, let's do a little news so we pace that show a bit differently. First, look, we tend to avoid talking about bad news in the industry, but we cannot miss this, especially because we've gotten a lot of messages about it. So, of course, we'll talk not too much, but a little bit about that Lion Air crash. And the angle we want to talk is not the angle of what happened exactly. It's the interesting thing. Because we didn't talk about it in the previous episodes, which was much closer to the actual crash, there's so much more backstory now that we are weeks in after this tragedy with sadly everybody died. It was a brand new 737-8 MAX, so really like state-of-the-art, latest aircraft, 8 month old. Yeah, 8 month old. And of course, let's be honest here, and it's not PC, and please, Indonesian friends, do forgive us for that. But, the first thing is like, oh, Indonesia had such a bad track record of safety, and you're like, oh my God, what have they done? Only that it seems that it's more blurry than that, right? It's not as clear cut what could have happened here.
No, it's not. And it'll be very interesting to see if the focus of the investigation or the focus of the cause is actually what ends up being the actual cause of it. And there's this,
of course,
there's this change in the way the angle of attack is managed by the airplane. And the change was between previous iterations of the 737 and this new version. And from what I can understand, and this is way above my pay grade, is
same
that Boeing felt that to the pilots that the change would be unnoticeable because of the way that the computer handled the angle of attack, that they chose not to mention it. Yeah, to document it or at least say it out loud in any conversion courses that were happening.
Yeah.
And it turns out that angle of attack was an issue or a contributing factor, as we so far know, in the crash. So whether that ends up being it or if it was some other factor and this also just happened to be something that happened in between these iterations of the 737, only time will tell. But it's added a layer of complexity to what is already a very difficult and complicated process, which is finding the root cause of a tragedy like this.
It seems to be that like the speed readings were completely off, so could have been maybe one of the detectors outside of the plane. But the thing, like you say, is that then the speed readings were off, the pilots were trying to compensate. It was not the first time that happened on that aircraft. Actually, there were reports of other instances where the flight would go up and down, and clearly the pilots had tried to kind of figure out what was actually going on. The readings must have been incorrect. And apparently, maybe because of the reaction of the plane, which was not the way it used to react, maybe the pilots added to their mistake. That we don't know. But it's interesting that Boeing felt the need to put out a safety warning. And you have now the unions of pilots that are getting pissed. And pissed is actually the word they use. I think especially Southwest, because Southwest relies on 737s. And you have the president of the Southwest Airlines Pilots Union that say, we're pissed that Boeing didn't tell the companies and the pilots about this. And now they even say, we need now to make sure that there's nothing else that Boeing tried to hide from us.
Yeah.
It's not a great relationship. I'm sure it's a bit of an overreaction to, because there's been a crash and people died, and that's a tragedy. But it's not what you want to hear from unions.
No, and I think there's two interesting points there. One is that this is clearly an issue that, for them to come out as passionately as they have, they could have said, no. Non-aviation people, you don't understand. This actually isn't a big deal at all. But for them to say, holy shit, this is a big deal, is an indicator of the magnitude of this factor. But also, to suggest that Boeing hid it, quote unquote, I think is probably a little irresponsible. But again,
no, it is. You're right. They don't. I think that's why I'm saying it's an overreaction. It was an emotional reaction to a crash. And actually, the United Union, some of the pilots broke ranks with that type of stance and said, you know what, Airbus aircrafts are known to have way more systems that are hidden. We don't know what they do. They say Boeing didn't have to tell us because we don't need to know about every single line of code in an aircraft, and it's fine that we didn't know. So it's not even like a black and white picture here where like the pilots are against Boeing or something. It's just, I think it's the more we embark software, the more we'll have these kind of occurrences where, how much should we tell? It's not to hide stuff from pilots, but I mean, some of the stuff are just there. I don't need to know that. Why is my Mac in front of me doing that or X or Y right now? Of course, my Mac won't crash and kill people, but still, it's there's an argument there. And Airbus always has been known to put way more software on their aircraft, and I'm sure that all Airbus pilots don't know every single thing that happened in the background either.
Yeah, exactly. And I think perhaps this is going to end up being a factor in a field of factors that resulted in this. It's so rare for there just to be one thing.
It's just interesting to see that, the story went from, Indonesian safety record is not great to like now spats between pilots in the US and Boeing.
Yeah, the only thing that's worth highlighting with the Indonesia thing that I think it caused a few eyebrows to raise was that, as you mentioned, there had been unusual behavior from this airplane for 4 flights in a row prior, and it still was flying. Yeah, and I think that people have said perhaps that was a poor choice, but again, that's not necessarily the cause. It isn't the cause, I don't think.
No, and maybe it's the airline, because there's been also Just a day after it happened, there's been at least 4 different versions online of the repair manifest. And you're like, okay, were any of those doctored or written after the fact to kind of cover you up? Again, we're not here. This is pure speculation. But to say that this is the kind of stuff that blurs all the story, and at one point we'll know the actual outcome. And as always, we keep saying that in every show. The airline industry is probably the best in the world to learn from its mistakes and, make travel even safer.
Absolutely.
Since we're in Asia, one more piece of news. Singapore Airlines, their longest flight in the world that everybody keeps talking about. They're filling up the business cabin, no problem. It's full all the time. But they're having issues actually filling up the premium economy cabin. And there are 2 hypotheses. Is either people do not understand what actually premium economy is. That's one of the... And yeah, as in, what is the value? What do you actually get when you fly premium economy? And the second one is that maybe actually it should be a full business aircraft, because at that price point, only businesses, corporates will pay for it.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting hypothesis. I hadn't even considered that they wouldn't understand what the premium economy offering is. They're pioneers here, so they're going to be adjusting and learning as they go on. And it wouldn't surprise me to see that business cabin expand a little bit.
Possible, yeah.
And the premium economy cabin shrink a little bit. So Singapore Airlines premium economy is very, very good, but it's still 16, 17, 18 hours of flight.
God.
So you could have the best premium economy product in the world, but still, you could have the best business product in the world. It's a long time to be in one place.
Yes. Okay, so talking about business class, my Qatar flights. Look, I've done 3 legs on the Dreamliner and 1 leg on the 777. That's a Q Suite. I'll get that at the end. First, the Dreamliner. I think I've mentioned it quite a few times, but it's really a good business seat. I really like it. I think... Guys, if you've ever flown, let's say, some of the American Airlines 777, I think the 200, and their Dreamliners, it's probably the same seat. It's a reverse herringbone type of seat. It's not the one you find on other, maybe again, American Airlines 300ER or Air France or Cathay, which I think that's the Zodiac seat. They look the same. They have both a reverse herringbone type of layout. But it's a very good seat. For someone told me it's 95% perfect. I just touched the end, but it's really, it's a breeze. The Dreamliner is such a great aircraft to travel for 8 hours in. It just works no matter the flimsiness of the air vents. At least they are air vents.
Yeah, well, exactly.
They don't lock any of the windows. You do whatever you want with the dimming. Of course, at night, they would rather you not open them, and that actually worked quite well. And, dine on demand when you are in business class. There's no first class, guys, first, of course, but dine on demand. So you choose your time to eat. They give you a pajama. Who gives you pajamas in business class?
Yeah, so, and how many seats did you say there were?
So I counted 22.
Okay, so it's not something like an Emirates. And even on ANA, I couldn't get over how many business class seats there were.
Yeah, because it was 777, right? It was a huge one, right?
It was, huge, but not that huge for, versus 22 seats.
By the way, little trivia here. The seat, ANA seat on the business one on 777, that seat, is actually the same seat than Emirates on their 380.
Wow.
And you can see how the customization makes them look like completely
structurally,
different.
you can absolutely see it.
Yeah, they are actually the same seat, which is staggering.
Yeah, they're very different experiences.
Yes. So yeah, really, like Qatar Airways, I love the crew because they're young, so they're not going to be as good room readers, cabin readers, like we say, like how to read the room as a Cathay, as a Singapore, but it's super willing, and that's really what makes it super endearing because they will try their hardest no matter what. They were like coming. I said, I want to eat very early, and they were clearly, preparing the cabin for takeoff. So I said, but don't worry, you can take my order after takeoff. And he said, yeah, but I'll try to come before we take off. And I'm like, no, not necessary. He came back and he took my order before we take off. We were actually taxiing and he took my order. He wanted to do, that's the thing. They really want to make their best. And that's something that shows. And that's no matter how, better can be Singapore. And again, Singapore also very good, but the simple fact that they're trying so hard makes it enduring. You cannot not like it.
What if you don't? Slightly delicate question, but what nationality predominantly were the counter? I'm always fascinated by that on the Middle Eastern airlines.
There was a mix. It's always a mix, actually. But this one, I think there was one from Serbia, one from Romania, one from Japan.
That's pretty amazing.
One from Malaysia. If I remember correctly, on the other trip there was one from Bulgaria. So it's a really big mix. It's always
That's cool.
It's always a mix. Yeah, an Indian. Yeah, there was an Indian. I remember an Indian woman as well. So it's a big mix. They tend to be younger, even younger than Emirates, probably because the airline is a bit younger as well. They're all very nice, to be honest with you. I make them comfortable, I say, because of my last name. They call me Paul. They keep wanting to call me Mr. Paul. And I'm like, no, don't call me Mr. Paul. Just call me Paul. It's fine. But you can create a rapport and it works well. The food is honestly fantastic. They have, which I also appreciate, they allow you to choose between rosé or a brut champagne, and I like rosé, so it's really nice. You actually have the choice. Right. No, they are really cool. And all these trips with a Dreamliner is great. I mean, you know that for 7-8 hours, the seat is super comfortable. I slept super well. It's absolutely fantastic. The IFE is, let's say, the content is really good. It's a very strange IFE because the screen is touchscreen, but not touchscreen. So depending on where you are in the layout of your choices, sometimes you can touch the screen and sometimes you can't.
That's interesting.
Which doesn't make, so you have to use a remote, and the remote is like not as good as an iPad or like iPhone. So meaning sometimes you kind of struggle a little bit. So it's let's say it's 80-20. It's, for instance, when you arrive, that's very striking. You arrive, you sit in the aircraft, and usually they have these kind of holding slides and say your seat number. You try to press the screen, it doesn't do anything. So you start with a remote, but when you're in movie mode and you're actually watching a movie, you can't press the screen to press pause. So I don't know why they made that kind of decision. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but it's
weird.
Okay. Yeah, it's very weird. It's okay, but it's not as good as the latest Emirates, as a Turkish, as a Cathay, the latest one of the 350. So it's a good one, but it could be done better. The Wi-Fi, there was Wi-Fi, similar than you. It's funny because it was not capped in terms of megabyte, but they would say fair policy. Fair usage policy for maybe the mid-tier was, I think, 100 MB, and the ultimate package was 200.
The ultimate package.
Whatever, $20 for the duration of the flight, 200. I don't think I've ever reached 200, and I was just a little bit of emails and a little bit of social media. That was it, and then I put it on pause, and so it's fine. Honestly, having Wi-Fi in the middle of anywhere is pretty.
Yeah, it's exactly.
I mean, at the end of the day, some very clever storage. There's a storage on your side under the seat in front of you, and you can basically hide your shoes. It's really cool. The pajamas I mentioned are made by the White Company, same company that does the bedding on BA. So there's something there, right? The amenity kits are okay, but I find nowadays that amenity kits are kind of restricting what they put in there, and I don't find them very useful anymore, actually.
No, I agree. Emirates still way ahead.
They had, for instance, if you wanted to use a toothbrush, which I wanted to, for instance, because I literally should have mentioned that from the start. I traveled to Doha and Malaysia only with my backpack, so I had very limited supplies on me. The one downside is I couldn't take all the pajamas back with me because there was no way. But meaning I was counting on having some of the amenities to supply from stuff, instead of buying everything at Gatwick where I left from. And I mean, you had, the toiletries were available in the lavatories, but they were not in the actual amenity kit, which again, I'm fine with. But then I see what's remaining in the amenity kit is almost like, okay, you have the socks and you have the eye mask and you have a hand cream and you have some kind of water spray, that can refresh yourself and earplugs. And that's it, which is great. But then I'm starting to say, why don't you just give everything on demand?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we like amenity kits. It's nice to have them, but I'm wondering, to be frank, if they are necessary.
ANA are good. They stock the restrooms in business class with all those things that you can just grab, hairbrush, all of the bits and pieces that you mentioned, toothbrush and all that stuff. So, and theirs is, I can't remember who provides it, Crabtree and Evelyn. They're pretty sparse. I mean, they're lovely bags, but there's nothing, but you can augment it, as you say, if necessary.
Yeah.
But then every hotel in Japan gives you, all that stuff too.
No, but Qatar Airways has that also in the lavatories. There are 2 lavatories for 22 people. They are, just Google up, go seat map on Seat Guru, for instance. It's very strange because you have the 20 seats like on 121, which is fine. And then you have these 2 weird seats that are in between the 2 lavatories. And I don't know why would you, I mean, unless there's no other option, why would you choose them? But I mean, and I had actually on one of the legs, the leg from Penang to Doha, the cabin was, it was empty. So I just told you 22 seats, were 6 in the cabin.
Wow.
Right? And we were 4 of us in, these 20 seats. And then I realized that at first I thought we were only 4. Then I realized that a couple I snuck into these kind of 2 seats. To be fair, the doors of the lavatories don't open up on the seats. They open up in the front. So basically, you're very private, actually. You're almost hidden from everybody else, right? So it kind of works. But I mean, anyway, very nice cabin, also modern. Everything worked very well. And again, having pajamas, dining on demand whenever you want on business class. Even Emirates doesn't do that, guys. Yeah. I mean, it's like everything works. I had still brought, although I only had a backpack, my own headphones. And that's the thing. They notice that, you arrive, they start talking to you and they notice and say, oh, you're using your own headphones. So they are paying attention to what you're doing. So because they were trying to explain the seat, and when they were explaining me where the headphones were, she had seen I had my headphones laying around, so you won't be needing those. So they pay attention. They're not only robotic and like going through a script of how the seat works, for instance. Right?
Yeah.
I like that. They're very well trained.
I do.
I mean,
yeah,
you've never flown Qatar, right? Which is strange for you because you won well.
Yeah, I haven't found a fare compelling enough for me to ditch going direct. And the only way I would be doing it is east, when you've got Cathay for Southeast Asia and JAL for Northern Asia. So I haven't found a reason quite compelling enough. But soon I'm sure I will.
And then Doha will cover it as an airport, but I want to give you one trick because it's a great airport. They've now installed the trains. You have these like science fiction spaceship look-alike trains that run between the concourses. They're super quiet and super fast. It's honestly stunning. It's a stunning airport. It's very famous overseas for that teddy bear that sits in the middle, that yellow teddy bear that a lot of people find creepy. But you know what? Creepy or not, it has become an icon.
Yeah.
Everybody takes a picture of it. Everybody takes a selfie in front of that thing. Right? So it's funny, like it has worked. I'll leave that to Hamad International, which is the name of the airport. So the one trick I want to give you, I had like these extended layovers for 17 hours, and I only needed to actually be in Doha on the Monday, but not on the way there. But I said, I want to see Doha, and it was Friday, which for them is Sunday. So I said, I want to go out, which you can, obviously, especially you can not only ask for 72 hours, I think, visa very easily, but people like us, we don't even require a visa. The only thing is that I wanted to leave my backpack in the lounge and then go out. I didn't want to have my backpack during the day because it's going to be hot. It's going to be 30 plus Celsius. And not that you're not supposed to do that, but it's not marked because you either have to go to arrivals or you go to transfers. So I go to transfer, I go to the lounge, which is this Al Mukhan, this fantastic lounge. I put the stuff as our lockers, and then it's not marked, but I'll tell you the trick if you ever guys have to do that. You don't go down back with the escalators. You take the elevator, and the elevator can stop you at security. The transfer security I just mentioned when you enter to transfers. And when you reach that, you go against the flow. But you have to find like someone who's going to allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I went there and I saw some security guys say, can I go the other way? And they look at me, what? You go against the flow and then you throw back before that choice of making transfers or arrival. And then you do a left, another left, and you're in arrivals. And it works. They will allow you because they will understand that what you want to do is go to visit Doha and you were actually on a long layover. But it's funny that it's not made for it. There's not like a passage. It's not marked anywhere. It's not written what you can do. You have to kind of figure it out. So second floor, transfer security, and go against the flow. They are very nice at security. They will let you do it. So just obviously don't choose a security which is backed up. Choose somewhere where there's no one, and they will let you do it. They will actually let you do
there
it.
You
It's
go.
pretty cool. Yeah.
That is cool.
And of course, then I went out of the immigration. That's also super fast. And the guy was like, you only have a camera? Because, I didn't have anything on me. I just was in a t-shirt and going to Doha. He didn't understand. Did I just travel all this time with just a camera and no bags? And was like, yeah.
It's just strange because it is a layover place. I mean, so if but you can't have been the first person to go have 7 or 8 hours between your flights. So I'm surprised that he was surprised.
But I think it's because I had left my backpack in the lounge instead of going out with it. So he was expecting even for people to lay over
have
to have a little bit of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like as if I was walking the street like in London. You know, they were all very fine with it. And again, I'm not going to go more on this because I think I'll cover Hamad in one of our further episodes, including the hotel, the international hotel, which is within the terminal, which is very good. Again, that in the next episode, because I know what you all wanted now waiting for is the Q suites.
Yes.
So I waited
too.
on purpose. You know, I had a meeting and then I waited on purpose. I could have taken an earlier flight and I waited on purpose. Which, by the way, sorry to be not chronological, when I was checking in, my first flight at Gatwick, where I started my journey, I couldn't, for some reason, get the mobile pass. So I had to go to the check-in counter. And I remember the face of the guy not understanding why I would wait for so long to catch a plane in Doha to go back to London, because he was seeing my itinerary. And he starts pressing on the keys. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, but maybe I can find you an earlier flight. No. Don't find me an earlier flight.
Oh, my God.
Don't touch anything. There's a reason I'm staying. I didn't say the reason was a Q suite, but I said, there's a reason I'm staying. Do not do it. He was like, oh, I just wanted to help. Yeah, of course. He was kind. And I think he literally thought that my itinerary was badly made and somebody had made a mistake. And I was like, no, there's a specific QR5 that's the identification of that route that I wanted because of the Q suite.
How did you find out that this Q suite was available on that route?
That's very good from Qatar Airways. You go on their website and they tell you every single route which has a Q suite. They even give you they say QR4, QR5. They give every city and even the route. That's so cool.
That is open. Cool. Wow.
Yeah, instead of us having to do like AV Geeks and going around and fiddling with Fire Radar and
exactly. That's what I kind of assumed you did.
No, but that's so cool. They tell you. So the seats, first in business. That's how they sold it. Is it amazing? Yes, it is amazing. Yeah, it's a very, 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 very good business seat. It has its own door. Guys, just take a look at pictures online. It gives a very strange feeling on the 777 that the aisles are very narrow, because I think they wanted to put as much room as they could to the seat itself. So that creates a feeling of having these two aisles a bit narrower than usual. Also because, of course, you have the door and the wall. So that creates a little bit, which is fine because at the end of the day, you don't spend time in the aisles anyway. But it is an interesting feeling. You don't usually have that feeling of smugness in the aisle of a wide-body aircraft, which you do, at least on the 777. I know that now they are going to install the Q suite on other of the aircraft, but on 777 that's the case. The seat I chosen one which is in reverse, each one goes frontwards, backwards, frontwards, and if you want to have a window seat, you have to choose one that is in a reverse position. Yeah. Some people don't like it, and because that's important, Etihad. If you ever fly, and we'll talk about that in the next episode, if you've ever flown the studio from Etihad, so that's what I've flown to Australia, what Alex will fly later this week, what I will also fly again sometime soon, and I flew to Karachi 2 weeks ago. Actually, it seems to me that the two seats are exactly the same. The only difference is that the Q suite from Qatar has a door and it's probably slightly larger, but the layout you will experience on Etihad Studio, Alex, will be a very similar feeling that the one you have on Q Suite.
So that's for anyone of you,
I mean, that's why we'll talk more about the studio in the next episode, but it's interesting. Other than that, having a door is pretty cool. It's very, very private. Even with a door open, because the door is narrow as well, you feel you're alone. The whole throughout the flight, if I didn't have any interaction or didn't want to have interaction with the flight attendants, you could press a button, do not disturb, and it won't disturb you. You are alone. You don't hear and you don't see any other passenger ever. Not even their head, because the walls are so high that especially when you're a bit lying back, like in a lounge mode if you want, you don't see anything. So you're alone.
When they come to you for service or to ask you a question, do they knock? Or what do they do?
I had left my door open at the start, so that's what they did. But at some point, I didn't sleep. It was a day flight. At some point, I just wanted to be left alone for a little bit. And I put a DND, do not disturb. Nobody ever came.
Wow.
Yeah.
Much like Emirates First Class, where they can sort of see over and get your attention if they want to ask you something. But generally, you feel very I'm fascinated to try these one day. And again, as you say, the Etihad seat may be structurally similar, but doesn't have that level of privacy.
There are differences. I mean, they are, for instance, on the Etihad one, you have this fancy panel. You'll see, we'll talk about it in the next episode. The Q Suite relies more on actual physical buttons, which, to be frank, I prefer usually, because they tend to fail less and they actually are available right there. For instance, sometimes even on Emirates, when they put everything on their panel, I'm like, I just want to move my seat. I don't want to press 5 menu buttons to move my seat. I'd rather have just a little button next to me. And really, the layout was really well thought out. The coloring is very well thought out. It's very subdued with a lot, of course, of mauve, the color of Qatar Airways. They have this thing that's really fun. They had discussions, pillows, additional. So you have the usual pillow, the one you're going to sleep on, but you have an additional pillow, which is more for decor. And mine said, what did mine say again? This is my happy place. Cool. And it was laying down there. And there's in another cabin, I spotted one. It said something like, being in the sky is such a nice experience, something like that. It's quirky, it's little things, but it made this whole thing work in terms of if you remove simply the quality of the seat, it just works very well. The IFE, it's the most responsive IFE I ever dealt with. So compared to what I just mentioned about the ones in the Dreamliner, it's probably even different provider. It's just snappy. You press, something happens. It's super cool. It's like an iPad. Everything moves super rapidly. It's really, really amazingly done. Honestly, that's the future of IFEs. The Cathay one on the 350 is as speedy, I would say. That's the quality. It's really, really fantastic. The food, man, interestingly, they give you the menu, they give you all my flights, and on that they gave me an additional menu. So it was like a snack platter. I could have like king prawns cocktail crostini, crudité of carrot, cucumber, and asparagus, duck spring rolls. I tried these; they were very good. A mini chicken shawarma with garlic tahina. I tried these at the end; they were also very good. Blue cheese croquettes with pear chutney. I mean, and chocolates and stuff. And this is on top of the menu, which is already looks amazing. And I don't know if it's because it's a Q Suite or was it because it's a total day flight. I didn't understand why.
And you could order those at any point.
Yes, everything.
Wow.
That's the thing. When you think about most of these experiences, you will have them in first class in other airlines. This is really a good deal. You're flying in business class and you have a first class experience in some respects. The dining on demand, the additional food, the door. I mean, it is a great. And again, for other tall people, when I do a full lie flat, I wasn't touching the end, almost not touching the end. So it's very large. I think compare that to the Etihad one. I think, again, similar type of layout. The Etihad seemed more snug and also less long. This one is a lot of width, which is probably why, again, the aisle themselves are very narrow and lots of pitch. I mean, I was almost not touching the end of it in full lie flat. I didn't sleep, but I tried, and it's fantastic. There's even, I don't know why they do that. I even had to ask Kelvin, he was called, great guy. The guy was taking care of me. There's a panel, you see like we do here in the UK, but you see that now pretty much anywhere, the contactless sign that you put, the sign you just tap and go. There was a panel like that on the freaking panel where all the buttons were. Like, why would you have a panel? I said, it's done like you could theoretically, he said theoretically because I don't think it works yet, you could touch your phone and the content of which would be transmitted to the screen in front of you. I don't know if it's useful, but yeah, there you go.
Wow. How cool is that?
Yeah. And the crew was fantastic. Had also a Filipina crew. She saw my Leica camera and she was like, and she was talking about photography for the entire flight. It was great because I had these interactions because I didn't want to sleep. So I didn't stay only watching IFE. I was talking to the crew. Again, super young, super willing, different countries. Again, very, very cool. It is one of the best experiences in business class. Is it my favorite business class seat? I still think that I prefer the one from Cathay because I'm tall. But yeah, it is. I mean, I felt alone, completely alone.
Yeah, that's nice.
If that's your kind of thing, you don't want to be talking to anyone. It's the center. I didn't see it in action, but you can, of course, regroup not only 2 seats, but 4 together. So you could be you and your 2 kids.
I remember seeing the pictures of that.
You could actually create a big table in the middle, eat together and talk to each other, and then regroup in 2 different other configurations and just be with your wife and your kids with the other side with a wall back up. I don't know if people actually do that, to be frank.
I would doubt it.
But the fact that it does exist is pretty cool. But even without all these fancy stuff, the simple seat is, I understand why people rave about it. It is a great product, and Qatar has a great product. Now, every single flight I took, it didn't seem that the cabin was full. Are they suffering because of the blockade, or are they simply overextending themselves? I don't know. But I hope, in terms, at least for a pure customer experience, that they stick around, because they're giving a lot of the other airlines a run for their money.
Yeah, and I fear that it's the blockade. Although that said, my flights to and from Japan weren't exactly full in any of the cabins, so perhaps it's just time of year, or if we're looking at broader economic downturn, as you say.
Yeah, I don't know. My deal was a very good promo fare, so does that explain? Are they trying to... This is why you should look into that right now, Alex. And guys, if you're listening and if you want to try Qatar, they seem to be doing a lot of promo fares these days. So maybe that's a shot for you to try.
Was it very easy to find?
Yeah. It's a totally official promo fare. I was even able to get it from the QatarAirways.com website. This is where actually I bought it.
Wow.
And
okay.
it says super promo, no cancellation, and pretty hefty rebooking. So you have to be sure about your dates, but it's worth it. It was really literally, compared to anything else, it's super cheap. I don't remember the price now, but it was super cheap. Even though it was paid for by a client, it was worth actually doing. So, I'm very happy to have done it. And the crew was fantastic. Kelvin, I forgot the name of the other one. I was trying to look at my notes if I have her name, but I don't think I have it, sadly, because there was another person that was fantastic too. But anyway, great. Probably one of my best flights this year.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, I'm very envious, and I can't wait to try that. You're right to say that it's weird that I haven't done Qatar Airways yet, given my One World allegiance. So I really need to fix
it's
that.
an easy way for you to get points anyway. It's not as if you're making like this conscious decision to go somewhere else and not having a tier point. Because Etihad for me is, where are you putting your Etihad points next?
I don't even know. I could put them toward, I think, Virgin maybe, but I haven't flown on Virgin in a long time. I actually need to think about that.
I put them on Etihad, and I've already reached silver. So if I do one more flight in business class, I'm probably going to get gold. But what does that actually give me? Because I'm not planning to fly them. I don't know. But I didn't know what to do with them, to be honest. Yeah. Last time, I think I let them lapse, or maybe I bought something on their store, like some battery pack, maybe.
Yeah.
Not a great use of miles, but well, I really wish they were member of an alliance.
Me
Which,
too.
by the way, I learned that Emirates in 2000 were about to enter, was it Star or One World?
Oh wow, can you imagine?
And then they decided not to. But imagine how different the world would be.
Jeez, they probably would not be nearly as good as they are now.
Maybe not,
as it were.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah. One last trick, since we also landed a T4, and you're going to be doing that, Alex, when you come back with probably Etihad as well, because they also are T4. For people like us that have EU passports, or EU compatible passports, when you go back and, before you reach out these E-gates, because of the old layout of T4 and the odd layout of T4, suddenly it divides in two and says, here you go non-EU, and you continue straight and you go EU. Actually, they both lead to the same place. Go with a non-EU, because you get faster to where you're supposed to be. I'm guessing that when the airport is full and there are lines, then go for the EU, because you're just going to go faster. But when the airport is empty, I did walk 3 more minutes going around some strange layout to be thrown out exactly where I would have been if I had followed the non-EU line, which is, so it's a trick. I mean, I'm sure they're doing it on purpose when there are lines, but when there are no lines, everything leads exactly the same place. So go for the fastest one, no matter which passport you have. Trust me.
That is a good pro tip
for you next week.
Yeah.
I also hope that Qatar doesn't leave One World, because then
they've been threatening to. Yeah, I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, Al Baker announced that he wants to invest in other U.S. airlines.
He loves to pick a fight, doesn't he?
Exactly. By the way, I've read a lot of people that are kind of willing that Qatar Airways leaves One World. And these people are not executives at the big airlines in the US. They are freaking flyers that are so entitled that they think that it's too easy to get miles from Qatar, and that they should. And I'm like, guys, if you get your status by, getting 25 credit cards and getting ranking miles, and then you are saying that Qatar Airways, I mean, your opinion
is invalid.
Nothing.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
Invalid. I mean, what what's that entitlement? You guys are literally getting frequent flyer miles out of
For doing nothing.
scam.
Yeah.
And then you are judging the other. I'm like, come on. I mean, I literally read someone that says, because lounges are becoming too full because of all these people that are getting their air miles through Qatar promotion fares. I'm like, and? I mean, you're getting yours by buying like stupid credit cards and vouchers and stuff. I mean, crying out loud.
No, I agree completely.
Anyway, there was a rumor that Cathay wanted to leave One World, though. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I think it
Do you think it's true?
I doubt it, but who knows what Cathay's going to do in the next few years. I think it would be silly.
There's movements. There's a lot of people that say maybe these alliances should disappear, but I surely do not hope so because I'd like to continue being able to...
Well, exactly, to take value from it in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you flying Cathay anytime soon?
No, I've done nothing on the books.
Yeah, maybe next February for me. I hope so. I haven't flown them in a while, actually. I really would love to. Emirates has a new tagline. It's no more hello tomorrow. It's now fly better.
Is it really?
What do you
Fly
think?
better. You know what? I'm a big fan of the word better, and one or two people who may listen to this will know why, but I think it's a great word. I think it's a very powerful word. I think it's aspirational, and I think it's infinite. Because no matter what you're used to, you can always do something better.
Better. Oh, that I agree. I was fond of Hello Tomorrow, but probably I was used to it. It's been their tagline for so long. Now I'm really wondering, I haven't checked actually, will they also change their tune, their very famous little song that I love? So maybe they will, because I don't know. Actually, one of my Uber drivers the other day had that as set as his ringtone, the Emirates song.
That's funny, isn't it?
So that's so well known. And I immediately recognized this Emirates. I said, oh, you know it? I said, of course you know it. And he goes like he rants for 10 minutes about how Emirates is the best airline in the world. In London, I was like, oh, wow. They have fans.
Nice.
They do actually have fans. Look, a few reviews before we move on. First on Facebook, JP Fountain. Always a fun chat, fantastic to listen to in the car. Leaves me dreaming up my next destination. Thank you. And on iTunes from Sebastian MUC from Munich, clearly, because he actually sends us that from Munich. Best aviation podcast I know. It gives you a broad and in-depth insight into the coolest industry there is. We agree, it's the coolest industry there is. He's employed in air cargo.
Oh, cool. I'm fascinated by air cargo.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. We should maybe have someone like you at some point, because it's something I don't nothing about myself.
Yeah, agreed.
I've zero about. Back to the UK. Have you ever fly B?
Yes, I have.
Apparently they're going out of business.
Oh.
I love how we went from this very enthusiastic answer to
That's disappointing. I again, anybody who can put pressure on BA, in a positive way is good, but they've been struggling for a long time. I didn't know that. That's very disappointing to hear.
It was like maybe a week ago.
I missed that.
Yeah, and
they're still overseas.
They're trying to sell themselves to find a buyer. So they're not grounded or anything, but they really have issues. It's too bad. And when you think about it, it's Primera Air, that's Cobalt, that the Ryanair profits are down, etc. That's Alitalia. I mean, it's not always roses, this industry. It might be the best really ever, Sebastian, but it's not not always roses. But Iceland Air has just acquired
Wow, yep. They said they'll maintain it as a separate brand.
You said, was it not planned from the start?
Yeah, that's true. I did say that. That's the conspiracy theorist in me. I've never flown on either of those airlines, so I don't know if either camp is losing out by this integration, or non-integration, as they claim it will be.
And the UK, since we were on there for T4, but for all the terminals in all the airports, the UK will open its e-gates to citizens of the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan.
Fantastic. This is good. I mean, it doesn't affect me unless I'm coming in on my U.S. passport, because the Russian embassy has got my UK passport. But this is a good thing. It maybe not a good thing for you and me, who like to use those gates relatively queue-free. But I think for those of you that have had to queue in a non-EU line, especially during busy periods at any UK airport, this will be very welcome news.
Putting a little bit of pressure on Border Force to keep them all open. Because sometimes they're like 5 open out of 20. And like, why?
Yeah, annoying.
Again, Taylor Moore, Tmoore4000 on Twitter, sent us a picture from LAX. It was flying to Heathrow, actually, and it's American that there was advertising, better boarding has arrived, basically advertising facial recognition boarding. So your photo will be taken during boarding, no need to present your boarding pass, then your photo will automatically be compared to the passport records, and once confirmed, you can board the plane and enjoy your flight. So pure facial recognition automated boarding. I think we're going there.
We are. I think more and more people are doing JetBlue, do it at JFK now. I think it's it's a positive move, and I think they'll always err on the side of caution. So if they can't get a match they're comfortable with, then a human will intervene, as it were.
They're trialing it in London. I know that already Heathrow has facial recognition. It's on, but you still have to show stuff. But you have cameras now actually taking pictures of you when you have these new gates. Emirates as well is trying that in Dubai. You can also do that at DXB. If you're going to be at Dubai soon, when are you going? I know you're not going to Astana anymore.
I am in January, though.
Okay. So that's pushed back. So you'll be able to try, probably if you still fly Emirates, you can be able to try that at Dubai, also having facial recognition. My experience at Doha was fun. They have these super fancy machines. They look like from the 22nd century, and at the end of the day, it's a camera that takes a picture of you, right? It's not, but they just like, they put it like in such a fancy decor around it. And you're like, oh, in a science fiction movie. I'm like what's the movie with Tom Cruise that's set in the future?
Minority Report.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly that. Only that, because I'm so tall, the camera kind of scans you, from bottom to top or something. But when it reached the top, it literally reached the top of the frame and then crashed down. Because he way too high, and something, maybe the support wasn't there, something didn't work. The camera crashed because of me, and I felt like stupid in front of the immigration guy. I'd say, "Oops, it's my fault," or the guy laughed after it. But anyway, and Europe is trialing something at actually Athens airport. God knows why. You'll have now an AI talking to you, so that's a trial. You'll have some kind of, I guess, humanoid talking back to you, answering the question. That's, oh man, what the? All these things, they do it because it sounds fancy. Yeah. And why don't you put your money into stuff that actually matters in airports? Exactly. I don't need an AI. Which, by the way, reminds me of the movie, 2001, right? Because open the doors.
Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Open the door. No.
Exactly.
Alex, you're not allowed into the country. Yeah, but I am a citizen. You're not recognized by the AI. Oh, my God.
Prepare for termination.
Oh, yeah, because you did your episode on the Aeroflot. Do you like the Dash 8 Q400?
Yeah, I do like the Dash 8. I don't get to fly it as often as I would like, but I do like it.
It was just acquired by Viking Air.
Yeah, I saw that, and I guess it's kind of really the end of Bombardier as an actual aircraft producer for commercial aircraft anyway.
I'm not a big fan of the Q4. They call it the quiet one, even with the best noise-canceling headphones. It's still not quiet.
I like that, though.
I get it. No, from time to time, it's... You know what we should do? We should do a tour of the whiskey region in Scotland, and you have these flights for 7 minutes to cross aisles and aisles, and they're all like these super noisy aircraft, and this is absolutely fantastic. And when it's bad weather, then it moves all around. If you don't like flying, guys, don't fly those, because they're really not the most comfortable, but this is really so much fun. And last, if you want to fly for free, you should do what this American airline baggage handler did. He fell asleep on the job, in the cargo, and ended up flying from Kansas City to Chicago in the belly of a 737.
Oh, he's very lucky, isn't he?
I was thinking about
And also, how did he fall asleep?
He was drunk.
Okay. Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh.
He admitted it.
Oh,
but
dear.
Isn't that super cold?
That's what I was wondering about, is he must have been in one of the climate-controlled compartments, otherwise he'd be dead.
Captain, we have a cat. That's not a cat, it's too big. It's a big cat.
Jeez.
Oh my God. Anyway, so this is now how you flew, like we heard earlier, to Japan and back. At least I hope so.
In the hold one day.
What? Did you actually want to do that?
Yeah, I think it would be very interesting.
Well,
maybe on a cargo plane. I'd love to do that.
Okay, the cargo plane, yes, and the climate controlled, yes, but not drunk next to random piece of luggages.
No. Thank you very much.
So New Chitose, how did you feel about it?
Physically, it's not a huge airport at all. but because of the way it's got this wonderful arc shape. So the terminal is this permanent curve. It's beautiful. It only does about 19 million, 20 million passengers a year, which is not to be sneezed at, but compared to the busier airports in the world, it's not that big. But it serves in terms of international, predominantly, almost exclusively Asia. There's a Hawaiian Airlines flight to Honolulu. There's a couple of flights to Russia, and then the rest of it is either Japan or Southeast Asia. But it's a very nice airport. The terminal is multi-storied, so it's a very sensible layout where you've got, check-in on one level and then the gates, and then there's a huge food court. There's an onsen in the airport, a thermal baths.
That's amazing.
Fantastic. Fortunately, I didn't have time to do it.
Too bad.
But we did walk past it, and it's in a very rural area. So it's about, like I said earlier, it's about 40 minutes south of the city and then very close to the coast. So you take off and then it's just rural farmlands as far as the eye can see. But it's got a domestic terminal, it's got an international terminal, and it's all of the amenities you could do. Amazing food court with everything you could possibly want. And for domestic, you've got the ANA section and the JAL section, and they each have their own security, and you cannot go through if you're on the other's ticket.
It seems something that is very often the case in Japan. You have your ANA bit and your JAL bit.
Yeah, I mean,
and you even have your terminal, right?
Yeah. Entire terminals dedicated to each other, which is fine, I guess.
No, of course. Yeah,
you're gonna everybody there is gonna be able to help you in one form or another. As I mentioned earlier, it's very easy to get into town. Taxis are really, really expensive, so avoid that. But you've got this wonderful train service that you can use. You can just use your Suica or Passmo or whatever you have, or just buy a ticket, and you're there in 37 minutes, right into the heart of Sapporo at the big station there, the JR station there. So yeah, it's really good. And what's cool is that Chitose Air Force Base is there as well, which is part of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, which has got F-15s.
Yeah, because I think at the beginning, before New Chitose, hence the name New Chitose, at the beginning they were sharing facilities between the two, right? Something like that,
correct.
Right? Yeah.
And that is where the Japanese Air Force One is based as well. So there's this very neat hangar as you're taking off. If you're sitting on the left-hand side of the airplane, you can see the two 747-400s, and I think there was another support airplane there as well, in this immaculate terminal, which is very, very cool to see. I just found out recently, actually, that there used to be long-haul service to Amsterdam. KLM ran it for about 5 years in the late 90s and early 2000s. And Cairns, weirdly, I suppose it's because it's Northern Australia, there used to be a direct service that Qantas did for a few years. But that's about it, which is strange because Hokkaido is where Asia goes to ski. The best skiing in Asia and Australia as well. So I'm surprised it's not served by more international beyond Southeast Asia airlines. But it certainly has the capacity and infrastructure to be able to do that. It's a very, very good airport, very easy to use, loads of good amenities, like I said, and very easy to get into town and beyond for skiing. So I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It's hard to dislike Japanese airports because of the orderly fashion. Everything happens like you mentioned earlier, because they're always clean. They're very efficient. There's nothing beautiful about them most of the time. The one Haneda, yes, but for what I recall from Nichitose, it's a very, it's well laid out. It's well thought out. It works really well, especially for, like you said, you can enter the airport like 30 minutes before your flight and you're making it. But there's no beauty about it. It's more like function.
Yeah, it's very functional. It's there's not a whole lot of character, but it's a very.
But it works.
It's a very good airport, and there's a big hotel there if you want to stay the night. If you got a really early flight and you can't bear to battle the rush hour at Sapporo Station, which I can understand. It's pretty intimidating train station.
Oh, all the big train stations in Japan are.
It's very true. It's very true.
I remember I was living next to my station was Shinjuku. And when friends were coming over to visit me, I was like, trust me, you want me to come pick you up, because if your first experience at central Tokyo is Shinjuku, which is like, 4 million passengers, you're never going to find yourself anywhere.
They're all overwhelming at Shinjuku. I had to brace my knees and say, okay, this is going to be pretty intense. That's Shinjuku, and Sapporo was the same.
Yeah, it is. But it's a nice place. It's worth visiting as well. Not only the airport. I'm talking about the island for the crab. Did you eat crab?
We did, absolutely, at their little the Tsukiji fish market, which was amazing. You have crab don, I guess it would be.
We'll cover other airports in the region in Hokkaido because I've done others as well. But yeah, me, when I was going there, was doing that route not on 777s, but on 747s. That was really fun. Like doing wide bodies on such route.
It's so great, especially when you've got that Japanese efficiency.
It's like a mind-bending how fast they can. I was boarding, what was it? The other day there was this 321 and it seemed like boarding took like 25 hours. And I'm like, how is it never stopped? And I was like, my goodness sakes, It's these are the limits of the single-aisle aircraft. As well, at some point you cannot build them bigger because it takes way too long to board. Anything else you wanted to mention about?
No, I think that's it. I think it's an interesting airport with an interesting history.
And we have other Japanese airports, not only the ones I just mentioned, but the ones you've done this time and also other times. There's a lot of, but we try, as you can see, guys, we try to balance continents. And I know we don't go enough to Australia and we don't go to Africa and we don't go to Latin America because we suck, because we don't know these airports very well. So, but we have a long list, and probably the next one will be Karachi, which was in and of itself, the airport, a very interesting experience.
I bet it was.
Oh my God. I liked it, actually, but it's very, very specific. It was fun. So what are your next flights? You just said Abu Dhabi, right?
Abu Dhabi, yeah. So London to Paris on Air France, and then Abu Dhabi and back.
You haven't flown?
Never. Well, I've flown on Air France when I was a teenager, but I don't recall it. So I'm going in with fresh eyes. I'm very interested to see what it's like. And of course, Etihad for the first time, and then a couple of short haul, and hopefully that will be the end of it for the year, because I've already broke my record for this year.
Yeah, me too. Wow. And for me, it's not over. But yeah, Air France, are you flying business class?
Yes.
Yes. The food, even on such a short haul, is very good. And I especially like, you see how they present you the cutlery, the napkin. You'll see, you'll tell me it's very French, but I know that people love to hate Air France, like people love to hate United. See, guys, we didn't say anything bad about United in this episode.
Right.
As for me, so since Alex doesn't go to Astana until January, I decided to go. Actually, but in the order, I'm first going to Serbia in Novi Sad, actually, but I'm flying obviously to Belgrade. That's going to be with Lufthansa. Then I'm flying to Astana, also with Lufthansa, because for some reason Air Astana, the timings are not great.
Timings aren't great, no.
But on the upside, it will be in wide body, so I'll have the actual live flight experience of business class in Lufthansa, which I keep rating again, so this time I can actually tell you if I like it or not.
Nice.
And then just after that, I'm going to Riga. So all just in the next week, and all places that have snow, and I just came back from Malaysia and Karachi and Doha and places where there was, I'm really not prepared for that, man. I don't know how I'm going to go for that to snow. And then Tokyo afterwards and others. As usual, we don't know where we're going to record next. We're going to find time for sure. Thank you for bearing with us. You know what? We never know how long the episodes will actually be in the end because we edit them. But we recorded 2 hours today, so it should be a good one for you guys.
Yeah.
And on that, happy travels.
Safe travels, guys.